Hey my Immortal Nerds, I promised you more builds for our best class, the Barbarian, and here we go. You guys have multiple contents to tackle, from open world to terror rifts, endless to single target raids, and for everything you need the proper build. That is quite challenging, isn't it? So today I present you a maximum performing, easy to handle solution for that. Ultra fast farming, 200 million damage per minute, high bursting and even S tier performing PvP for Battlegrounds and Tower. All of that now for you in this video, together with a max damage checklist, build overviews and variation slides. Let's get into it. This build is a powerhouse for our Barbarian. You get early 6 million damage peaks and you can keep up a solid 3 million damage per second. We utilize all damage multipliers, make good use of Firestorm and get most out of sets, gems and curses. Of course, we are no demon hunter or crazy necro with crazy damage numbers, but this is still very solid on a Barbarian. With our speed and our durability, this is heavy. I'm gonna guide you through a max damage checklist next, then through the legendary setup, giving you an overview for easy copying, then through sets, gems and all the minor settings. All of the infos you need to get to your personal best result. Of course, damage depends on your individual level, your secondaries and so on. So don't be sad when you're not there yet. But keep on optimizing and then you get to a 200 million damage per minute build with that as well. Good, so let's get into the checklist. There are some things to consider if you want to go for max damage on the puppet or on anything like raids. First of all, the stance should be offensive stance. It gives you a good bonus in attack speed or for some other classes crit or whatever, but you need that on the puppet to go to your max result. You can either activate it before or activate it once you charge to the puppet, then it gives you an extra burst for the beginning. Next, charm. A charm is important. Make sure that your charm has your primary attack skill. Normally in this build it will be the frenzy, but if you have any other build in there, Lacerate or whatever, or even with the other class, make sure your primary is in there with the highest possible percentage you can get. Next, Paragon. Paragon for this build, Weaver is very good. It has a good damage bonus. Try to get Weaver activated and of course go for a build that combines primary and skill in a good ratio. One thing that brings a heavy burst is the warband. Go to the attacker room and get all of the stuff, the damage bonus, crit bonus and whatsoever. So warband attacker is important. You don't care for size in this case, it does not help you. You need the warband attacker. For curses, I suggest you the lashed or the detested. Both of them are performing really good. Detested in just an overall big damage bonus that you get, and lashed with a very good dot that has a very low cooldown. So both of them very effective. Next in list, ancestral bonus. If you don't have all of the item on a curse and you have 2 or 3 on the ancestral bonus, it gives you a very good push if you go for that 50% damage for 6 seconds. So the more, of course, of the ancestral items on the same trigger effect you have, the better the cooldown gets. That's then an extra bonus and extra nice, but just having it proc once or twice in that minute is already pretty good and gives you a heavy damage boost. Reforges are good. I normally split into half PvP, half PVE, so I go 4 on Tremor and 4 on the Vengeance. Vengeance again is a crazy damage boost. Just for 1 second it doubles the damage you do, but it is really a good thing when you want to go for max damage. In your items, sets or legendaries, focus, strength and fortitude for the Barbarian. Those two are most important, dealing heavy damage. So don't go for the highest gear score only, check for the fortitude and the strength and keep those items in your stash for exactly then when you need a high damage for raids and so on. gem resonance, one very important point. If you have already rank 1 or rank 2 gems that are on level 10, you can go into the gem resonance and can equip additional gems in there. So for a regular 2-star rank 10 gem, it would be a level 5 or rank 5 1-star and a rank 3 2-star. Then you get your first bonus from the first 15 points you get in there. And this brings you, for most of the gems already, 3% additional primary attack damage. And if you have it on 4 or 5 of those gems, this really makes a difference. So look into your gem resonance. And last one on my list is take a PVE pet. If you have a nice PVE pet that gives you a dot on the enemy, that gives you additional lingering wounds or anything, so damage boost for you, that is very, very preferable instead of a soul shield or a savior pet here that brings you no damage bonus at all. Cool, so let's look into the build itself, the skills and the legendaries. We go with a frenzy build in here. This is our best solution for PvE damage. We have the chained spears equipped, the wrath equipped, and the sprint. And then we have a 4th skill equipped. In this case, in this video, it will be the Sunder, but there will be variations for this 4th skill, enabling all of the different playstyles we have in this video and of course available for this build. So the whole thing focuses around the Oustlak helmet. This is our key piece for this build, where while we activate our sprint, we get Firestorm on every projectile we do when we combine it with the fire skill, our Sundered Legacy, which we use as a second key piece here. So we always burn and we always sprint and we do projectiles with cool crazy damage burst. We do this with the Shackled Fate. This chest makes our chain spear into this summon guy who spams the spears, and all of those spears are projectiles. That's pretty cool. The cleave and the hammer of the new essences are no projectiles, sadly, but this one is, and this is very nice. We combine it with the buried Talons that gives us a 20% damage increase every time our summon is doing the spears. So we have a permanent 20% damage boost active. So after the initial burst, we go to our frenzy again. We have 2 essences here, the Lunatic Twin that is unleashing an additional attack, which is counting as a projectile as well. So another projectile that again procs a Firestorm while Sundered Legacy is active. And we have our Riddleroo that gives us a 50%, sadly non-stackable, but a 50% primary attack speed increase whenever we do a critical hit with a frenzy. So again, heavy damage boost. Both of them can be improved by a 10% damage increase from the Awakening. So if you have Awakenings, push them into those 2, that's 20% damage for free. On the offense, we take the last essence in here for the frenzy, the Oncoming Brutality. Normally with the Wrath of the Berserker, you would use the Falling Thunder, but Falling Thunder requires a bleed, and the bleed is not available here anymore. We don't have any cleave, and we don't have the Lacerate anymore, which is dealing the bleed damage. That's why we go back to the Oncoming Brutality. We get our 30% again, but only for the frenzy. It's good that this one, if awakened as well, gives you a 10% damage boost. So overall from this essence we get 40% damage increase for the frenzy. Not for the chain spear, but at least for that. And then we go with another damage, another cool additional damage, the Nature's Temper. Every time we do a primary attack, we have ultra fast attack speed. So every time we do one of those ultra fast attacks, we get an additional damage here while the Wrath is active. So heavy boost. For the sets, we go with a kind of a new approach. We have our chain spear now that is constantly slowing the enemy. Everyone who's hit by the chain spear gets slowed. So that's why the Feasting Barons is really effective here. First, it prolongs the duration of our harmful effects by 30%. So everything that harms the enemy is effective for a longer time. And then everyone who's affected by a suffering of loss of control from us, which is slow actually, is it's not a total loss of control, but it is a loss of control, gets 20% more damage from us. So it's a nice damage boost, and all of our dots and everything on the enemy stays for 30% longer, which is really, really cool. And then we combine it again with a 4-piece Vithus. In this case, of course, duration 30%, it's clear, but it gives us a 30% attack speed bonus. Again, it does not stack with the Frenzy, but it is a very nice boost for our first critical hit. So we have a higher attack speed at the beginning, so we deal our first critical hit faster. We get easier into that rage. And then our Chain Spear gets boosted by 30% attack speed. They are proccing faster, and they're really delivering a good damage with that advanced attack speed. For the gems, we take a classic approach. We go for crazy out-of-your-mind damage stuff. So Berserker's is really nice, flat damage boost. The Gloom Cask is very, very good in this build because it is counting as a projectile as well. So everything in there gets Firestorm as well, and Firestorm means 40% more damage of that individual hit. This is a big thing in this build, of course. The Jade, always nice, flat damage boost. The Pain Clasp, always nice, flat damage boost. Everything is burning around us, so we get a full potential out of that. Bringing us to the next one, we need more crit. So we take the Lamet in here and the Rolling Consequence. Both are good, is a good crit boost for our build here. And they, at least the Rolling, deals another dot effect. So a good damage increase here as well. Then we take the Fang. Fang is at max very, very fast. And then we need another damage boost skill. And as our Frenzy and our skills are both dealing good damage, you could go with the Power and Command. You could go with any crazy other thing as well. A Salads is really nice. You could, there are many damage gems around you could take as well. Again, as already said, this brings the highest damage potential for this build. And for the Cursed, I always choose the Detested. This, of course, is working on the Puppet. It's not working on raid bosses. You cannot slow them, so it's not getting procced. But it is very good for high difficulty content like rifts or any challenge rifts or terror rifts or endless and so on. The stuff where at the end it's getting kind of messy. This skill helps you because it's a huge area dealing a lot of damage and improving your damage so you kill faster. Overall, to show you the summary and making it easier for you to copy it, it's the Oustlak as a key piece for this build, the Shackled Fate to give us that cool Chain Spear that pulls everything to you, 3 Essences to boost our Frenzy with the Oncoming Brutality, Riddleroo and the Lunatic Twin to give us projectiles with the Lunatic Twin, and the Buried Talon to just boost our damage at all, Nature's Temper to boost it again with an additional attack, and the Sundered Legacy to burn everything so that all of our projectiles are really going into Firestorm. Okay, so some words for that Baron set. You see we have a 4-piece Baron here equipped. It's bringing us the duration effect of 30%. So when we look at the Sunder, we have a cooldown of 12 seconds. That means the enemy is affected for 12 seconds of us. When we remove it, the Baron, then of course, and this is what you will see, we are going down to a 9-second duration on the enemy. So it's not just harmful effects that actually hurt the enemy, like a dot or anything. It's every status effect on them from us that is bringing any loss of control. So, as I initially said, this build is made for any content you can play out of there. So, for open world here, we just adjust a little piece in our legendary set and we are ready to perform heavily good in open world. In this case, we equip the hammer. So we changed the essence into the clatter steel that brings our hammer or that makes our hammer into this AoE damage that follows us. Sadly, there's no projectile again, but it's still very, very good. And we switch our shoulders into those cool fire trail shoulders that just improve our firestorm and our dot damages on the enemies a lot. So with that, we are fast as hell with the combination of Wrath and the Sprint. We get to 65 or something % movement speed, and we have that very, very heavy damage output on many enemies that makes us just passing by all of that. Even when we hit a red mob or purple or just gold, we kill those very, very fast because we still have our frenzy equipped. So as soon as anything comes up with more HP, we just hit it with a frenzy and it dies like instantly. That's why this build is very good for open world. Fast, heavy damage and heavy single target damage. You can easily go to your few thousand kill streak. Next variation is again our biggest single target damage we can use for the raids and of course for the rifts. So for rifts this is working pretty good as well. If you're not performing good enough in the rifts and you say, oh wait, don't kill the mobs fast enough and the bosses they're going down too fast, I have problems reaching my 4 pillars for each rift run, then this build is really, really good for you. You should not go with the open world build, then you should go with this one. And here we again take use of our oncoming brutality to give us the highest single target DPS, and we take our nature's temper here as well. So not the fire trail and not the hammer, we go back to our sunder skill. With that we have a huge burst on single target damage together with the firestorm and so on. In this case I took the last boss of Inferno 6 and you see she's going down really good. It takes some time. Again, I'm no demon hunter here, we are barbarians, but the boss is going down really, really good. And when you do the raids together with your team, which is normally do not consist of the 8 best players in the universe, they're regular guys, you will be at the higher end every time, I promise you. It delivers really a good damage output. So in this case it was quite easy for me to kill the boss. I was lucky because again here I had my portal with the additional bosses, which is nice. I think there are some videos about it already, that when you got those additional bosses you can like farm them. That's a nice thing to do to get legendaries pretty quick. There are other ways to get legendaries of course, but this one it's a nice idea to just farm those bosses to get the additional legendary in the reward boxes. You see, even I can kill them solo very, very good. They're going down quite fast. And then we have the chest, and in here, nice legendary. So cool thing to do. We have a third variation. So if the content gets really, really tough, like the gauntlets, or even if the terror rifts are too heavy for you and you say, okay, I die too often, I'm too small here, I need a different build, you can go into the third variation where you need the Undying Rage. So we kick out the Sunder, same slot we use for all of the variations, and get the Undying Rage in here. This makes us, of course, it improves our survivability and makes us quite heavy to kill. And in addition, we step back from a bit of the damage from the oncoming brutality and we put in the Steel Lamprey. This offhand is quite good. It gives us a 5% life leech, not that much, but it boosts again our damage for the Chain Spear if you have an awakened slot. So with that and the Undying Rage, we have a good chance of surviving. We can take the faces of the bosses really, really good in the Gauntlet, and we can, in the Terror Rifts, always leech some damage. It's quite good vampire stuff to keep us alive. Okay, we had the open world variant where we go with the hammer, and you see it's always the shoulder and the offhand we are switching, mostly just the offhand. And in the open world you take the hammer and the clatter steel for raids and rifts and lairs, whatever where you have higher HP on enemies. we go with the Sunder. We take the Nature's Temper and the Oncoming Brutality to improve our single target damage. And then for the Gauntlet, where it's getting really heavy, where we get killed regularly, we go with the Undying Rage and take the Steel Lamprey in here to give us some life leech for our Survive build. And then on the last part, the fourth variant, the Battleground, which is very exciting, we go back to the damage. We go back to the single target damage, but we do not take the Sunder anymore. We of course go with the Undying Rage. So this build is really nice for the Battleground. Let me show that to you right now. The PvP variant works for both the Tower and the Battleground. Sometimes it's even working for Tower better because you are very fast, and this is a USP for the Tower. But in here, why are we so fast? Why does it help us? Because we can avoid enemy attacks. And this is something pretty crucial for the Battleground. If you can just run around them, run around in the idle, you get not hit by 50% of the stuff already. So speed is our friend in here. We go with the Oncoming Brutality, and we go with the Nature's Temper to give us a max damage on the enemies. But as you see, there are variants as well where you can run with a Fire Trail, which is nice to just spread your dots. This is pretty cool. And of course it leaves a Firestorm Chain Spear Ancient behind you, which is dealing good damage. But these are just some little variation. Again, we have the Oustlak helmet and the Frenzy. This is the key part in here, together with the Chain Spear chest. But I know some of you really don't like Frenzy. I don't know why. It is a cool skill. Of course, the damage is a bit slower, a bit lower than the Lacerate damage, and that attack speed, that 50% attack speed, needs to build up with the first critical hit. And yes, the Lunatic Twin needs to build up as well. You need your 5 stack of Frenzy here. But let me show you how Lacerate would look in comparison. So for Lacerate, we would go, of course, for the Rending Bite, the Ardent Fervor, and in this case, as we have now bleed damage, we would go for the Falling Thunder. So with that, we get to a kind of a 2 million damage peak at the beginning, but then we're going down to 1,400,000 or 300,000 or something. So it's a solid damage, of course, with PvP gems in here, so not as high as the PvE configuration, but still good. In comparison here, the Frenzy PvP setup, again 2 million damage peak, and then it goes down like 1,500,000 or something. So it's a bit higher, I think, when it wears off because of that additional Lunatic Twin projectiles. Both are good. I really do like this build in PvP, to be honest, because of the speed and the high damage output of that Firestorm projectiles from the Chain Spear. So Chain Spear at all is a really great improvement to our Furious Charge in before. There are other builds for the Leap that are utilizing the new Eternal damage reduction that are really good as well. But this one is, oh my god, it's just fun to play. Being so fast, being able to avoid the enemies while still with the Undying Rage being able to sit the idle when it's necessary. So it's a cool combination for people who like to have fun in the battlegrounds, not just standing there in the idle and be a meat sack. So lots of fun, to be honest, guys. This build works the best when you utilize the new Eternal gear. So let's have a look at the Eternal gear. First, and really good for damage improvement, is the Wrath AoE attack. So you get a 20% chance of triggering an explosion every 0.5 seconds, causing 8,000 damage to nearby enemies. The radius is quite large. It's not really big, but it's not just around you. It is I don't know, 1 to 2 meters or something. So it's a good AoE attack, and 20% chance per item, meaning 4 items brings you to a max of 80% damage. And yes, this works in PvP as well. You have a 80% chance of delivering those 8k damage. So I think in PvP it's a bit lower. I think it's 6,500 or something, but everything is downscaled there, so it's pretty good. And for PvE, of course, as well, that additional attack is nice. More important is the sprint knockback immunity. 25% chance of being immune to knockback, chill, or slow. So we are fast as hell, and we want to run through the enemies. So if we would be slowed by anything or getting any knockback, it would just kill us. So this thing, and it works really nice in PvP. I run with a 3 out of 4 normally, so 75% because I have some percentage left for my tremor. I am immune to knockback, totally immune to knockback and slow. Stun will get me, of course, and if a stun gets me while my sprint runs off the cooldown, I will be hit by some knockbacks, definitely. But overall, this is quite cool. So farm your terror rifts, do them. It's so good to have those two things equipped. So that is my one for all build for you. Get max damage and utility for each of the game modes with just a little tweak. Test it and hopefully you have as much fun as I do. I know many of you play around with the new improved Berg Breaker that gets activated by the Nature's Temper as well, but sadly we need our permanent burn here in this build. So that's why we stay with the Sundered Legacy, and it has a better cooldown, to be honest. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, feel free to leave me a like. See you all in the Battleground soon.